Welcome to the last talk of the day. This is the Barton Grifter Show. You all know about the business hall and all that, so I'm not gonna tell you about the business hall and the arsenal and all that. You already know that. So without further ado, Barton Grifter.
Yes. Yes.
Welcome.
Adore us. Does this work? It was work. So we're Barton Grifter. So who the hell are we? If you've been to a NOC debrief before, previous black hats, then you know what you're in for. If this is your first one, we apologize up front. You will learn nothing.
Buckle up.
Yeah, right? I mean,
Buckle up.
it's true.
Yeah.
So that's me. I'm Grifter, that handsome guy over there. I have been doing all the on-site technical operations for Black Hat for the last 17 years. This is actually my 50th Black Hat, so that counts, you know, the Asia show, Europe shows, the federal shows we used to do, and we used to do a Windows show in Seattle for those of you who are old like me. So yeah, 50 shows, and that requires setting up a network. By day, I'm a threat hunter for RSA. By night, I do this, as well as DEF CON Goon. I run contests and events for DEF CON. Been doing that for 18 years. I speak all over the place for some reason. And I've written some books and stuff. It's supposed to make you want to listen, but you're already here, so fuck it.
You usually know who this guy is anyway. So I'm Bart, and I usually just say I'm not as pretty or known as Grifter, but here we are. So I've been doing this now about 12 years, so rode his coattails all the way here. This is the 12th year, not as many shows as Grifter. By day, I'm a security consultant with Optiv, and do all the other things as well. We're pretty involved, obviously. So
Cool. But we don't do it by ourselves. This is the NOC team. So yes, they're
cheer for them more than
what a
us.
handsome bunch. We have Marissa in the center as the NOC queen. She is responsible for all NOC operations at UBM/now Informa. So she's responsible for us. Which is
Not easy.
yeah. But we have Bart and myself, and then we have Steve MF Fink, who's up here in the front. Steve, just wave to the crowd, Steve. So Steve's like our chief architect. Basically, the three of us are who decides what ends up going in the NOC. But there are other folks in there as well. So we have 15 of our friends that we take with us. They take vacation, they come, they hang out with us and try to do something cool, look at weird traffic, and just generally have a good time at Black Hat. They are security professionals from analyst level all the way up to VPs in their organizations, and they're here just to chill, basically. We also have NOC partners, which we'll get into in a moment, but each of those partners normally sends between 2 to 4 people. Those 2 to 4 people will often rotate in shifts so that there's always representation there. So, speaking of partners.
Yay! So you guys have seen a lot of these names before. We've had a nice tight crew that we've been running with the partners here for a while. Palo Alto RSA, Cisco, CenturyLink, Ruckus, and Gigamon. We'll get into architecture here in a minute. But we always kind of want to reiterate that these are partners. They're not sponsors. They haven't paid to be in the NOC with us. It's not anything that whoever pays the most money gets to be in the NOC. We've made a very conscious effort and chose these partners, the equipment that they bring, and the talent that they bring as well. So they're also a part of the family at this point.
Yeah, so just a little history for those who don't know. Initially when I started doing the network at Black Hat, we did it with a Cisco 2600 router, a couple of Netgear switches, and those Cisco APs that you would put the Orinoco gold cards in and like tape an antenna to a wall, right? We used to do it like that. Then, we started having additional needs and scale. The first show I did, a US show, was 1,500 people. We'll be over 20,000 for Black Hat for this show. So some growth. So we had a scale issue, right? Because we started doing things as it grew with all roll your own open source. We had SoCris boxes running OpenBSD, and we did everything with PF or our own custom written scripts to have it call home. And we'd have configuration parties in somebody on the NOC team's living room for weeks leading up to the show. And at one point, Bart and I sat next to each other at a US show and said, man, this is insane. Like, I wonder if we can get like one of these vendors to give us gear. And so we're like, oh, let's go down to the expo hall and ask. And we'll say like, hey, if you give us some gear, we'll say, this is what the Black Hat NOC chooses for the NOC, right? That sounds like a good trade. $1 million worth of equipment for some like, hey, look what we use this. I don't know. A lot of self-importance in that like thing, right? But we took our egos and we went downstairs and into the expo floor and walked up to one of the vendors that we were interested in partnering with, and we said, hey, hi, we're the guys who run the NOC. We were curious if you would be interested, and they were like, yes. Whatever it is, yes. And I looked at Bart and he looked at me and we were like, oh, let's go shopping. And so that's what we did. We walked around the expo floor going, I'll have some of that, and I'll have some of that. And what you got over there, sprinkle a little bit on top of that. I'll take it, I'll take it, I'll take it. And everybody was super gracious. They were just like, yes, absolutely. What do you need? Here's more. And we've whittled things down and figured out exactly what works for the NOC. And we've had to change certain partners or different things, again, as we scaled or needs change. But we think we have a pretty good mix right now. We've been working with these partners for a few years. And it's going well. So don't screw it up, guys. No, just, I kid. No, seriously.
A little bit.
Did you see the expo floor? I will pick whoever I want. No, so it's a good mix and everybody works really well together. So it's been good. I think I won't get into it. I was going to tell a story, and that's not fair.
That's not a good
It's
idea.
not fair. Yeah. Okay.
So the architecture has always kind of kept a simple theme with us, and that is keep it simple. So the whole KISS theme, keep it simple, stupid, is really what we've tried to live the policy here when we build the networks for these shows. So one of the big things that we've been pushing that those of you in trainings may have noticed more than others that just come to briefings is that we're trying to not wire things, and there's a big piece of this that has really come to this. But we'll dig through this a little bit really quick. So Palo Alto brought us a pair of 5260s running the core and the WAN of the 10 gig circuits, the two 10 gig circuits we have from CenturyLink. So 20 gigs of bandwidth. You guys enjoyed it. Panorama was with Palo Alto. Gigamon brings their GigaView that they use to, we use that to tap the traffic and provide it to our tools, including RSA Net Witness. RSA also brings ECAT and Identity Force throughout the infrastructure. Ruckus provides their ICX switching throughout the core switching as well as all the distribution switches. We replace all of Mandalay Bay's switching and basically just use the cables in the wall. And then the R600s, and I believe we had some R710s. I don't see Mo just to give me the nod, but access points. So one quick little thing that I like to talk about as we get into this, again, about the wired stuff. So we had 10,000-ish students for training this year, and we had one room that had wired connections for students. And as far as we were aware, it went very, very smooth. So hopefully you guys will continue to see growth there and basically just wireless.
That's an important thing to say too. We don't use any of Mandalay's infrastructure, right? We come in early, we replace all the switches, all the routers, all the firewalls, everything. Every access point is ours or our partners, right? It belongs to the NOC. We do that because it allows us the ability, well, we're control freaks.
A little bit.
But it allows us the ability to have that level of control, and also should we see something that is genuinely bad, we have the option to do mitigation versus just going, whoa, that's bad. All right. So we replace everything. The only thing that we use for Mandalay is the wires in the wall. And so of the 88 different classes that happened this year, we had one issue where the class, they didn't actually go hard down, but something weird was happening toward the end of one of the training days. And when we chased it down, it literally was the freaking wire in the wall. Again, I'm like, all right,
what do you do?
What do you gotta do? You know, like, so the last point of failure, the only one we can't control, and it freaking failed, but only for one class. So we'll take those numbers for sure.
So there's that.
So Bart just said this all to you, and I had it all on the next slide, but I wanted to see how much he could remember. He did fairly well. Like, if you're watching this on YouTube later, you can roll it back and see how he did. So this is all the gear. So we bring a lot of stuff. It is pallets worth of gear that all get rolled in and unpacked. It's quite the undertaking, but in the end, this is what we found works for us. He mentioned the two 10-gig circuits from CenturyLink. We used to have two 1-gig circuits, still Denver and Sunnyvale, but we started maxing those out. We jumped to the 10-gig circuits last year, and you guys used probably like less than 30% of that available bandwidth. And I think
spiked at like 13 gigs.
Yeah, there was a couple of larger spikes, but overall, I think it was pretty low. We still only used about 40%, I think, this year as far as what we could do. Someone in one of the classes discovered that there was a lot of options, whatever. They just they fired up mass scan and were like, the entire internet. And we saw it because of one of the dashboards that we have. It was just like, wah! And so because of the way that we lay out the classrooms and the subnets, we know what room the individuals are in because, so we trotted down there and we're like, okay, we don't know exactly where you're sitting, right? But you just shut off the lights and the guy whose nick was glowing, that was the guy, right? So, we're like, hey man, that's cool. Just
usually you don't
off.
even have to do that. We walk in the door and the guy that's messing up is always the...
Yeah.
He's the one that looks.
Yeah, a room of 60 people and there's one dude who turns around and goes, tap, tap. All right. And you're like,
you should stop.
I see you. I just need you to know. So I mentioned the dashboards, and one of the ways that we do see it is OIP. OIP is where we get our initial visual indication of what's going on the network. Green is TCP, red is UDP, and white is ICMP. You can see there are larger or thicker bars there. I'm not going to have it repeat, but we'll save that for the fun ones. But you'll see some of them are thicker. That's just an increase in the amount of traffic, right? So if we see those get larger and larger, like we're like, what? That's interesting. What's going on there? We can take the IP address or host. We run over to RSA and NetWitness, and we're like, hey, will you just take a look and see what's going on there? And it's like, oh, it's fine, or they're DOSing the hell out of something. So
happens all the time.
The other dashboards on the side are just intelligence, basically, like some different stats on different things that we keep on the boards inside the NOC. You could actually walk in, if you didn't walk into the NOC, you could walk in, you just couldn't go past the glass. Like Alan, the security guard, would hit you with his elbow and you would immediately regret it. He got very aggressive, and I'll share why in a second. So that all that information, all those dashboards they're actually real. Like, we use the data that are on the dashboards. They tell us things like, on the left there is our automation piece, and we're aggregating, or orchestration. We're aggregating data about incidents from all of the different partners and pulling it under one incident. So when something happens, we have all the data from all different devices pulled into one place. Even as much as I mentioned, where we know what room you're in, we can have the floor plan show us like it's in this room. So we don't even have to think about it. We're like, go left and then go down 2 doors, like it's right there. And when it comes to not thinking, that's us. On the right here is all of the core infrastructure or the wireless. So if a switch goes inactive or whatever, it turns red, we're like, ah, and we go running off and do something about it. So I mentioned the security, making sure you didn't go past the glass. And so we always have like a hired security guard that just makes sure things are authorized people are only going into the NOC. But this year, a trainer asked us, Snow, if you're familiar with Snow, she has
It's an engagement. It was a true engagement.
full scope social engineering class. And she said, hey, can I put something in the NOC and then see if anybody can get it? And I was like, what? And she's like, I just, like we'll put some type of object in there, a trophy of some kind, and if they can get past like security or your guys or whatever and they get it, then they get kudos in the class. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? I mean, what's security?
That's how we learn bad ideas.
So we had an actual document that was the get out of jail free card with all the information. Bart, myself, Snow signed it. So they had it on them should they get tackled or elbowed in the face by Alan. It happens. Red teamers, no, you've been thrown to the ground before. And so they were then given 24 hours to go ahead and try to get in. Within 5 minutes of the 24 hours given, so it was from the time the class broke on one day until the end of the day the next day, they were given a picture of a clipboard with a folder on it, and it said, "Grifters, don't touch." And so they were sent this picture in email. One of the guys walked in with the picture on his phone, showed the security guard, said, "Grifter said I should come pick this up." And he was like, oh, it's right there. And he walked in and picked it up and walked out. Right? And I turned and I could see him walking out, and I was like, oh no. So I leaned over to see where the clipboard was sitting, because it was just inside the NOC on the table, next to Lyle, the NOC mascot. And it was gone. And I was just like, damn it. And someone was like, what? And I was like, we just got owned. And then the security guard was like, oh no, what? And I was like, yes, not Alan. This one was not Alan. The security guard who was at the door was like, not that he was replaced, or we didn't kill him or like have him. But he panicked and was like, I can get my supervisor, we'll write up a thing, we'll do it. And I was like, oh, chill. This is what we do. Like, this is just us having fun. So I was like, damn, but now the security guards were onto it, right? So they were really checking everybody as they came in. Let me see, where's my NOC badge?
You got it.
There we go. So everybody at Black Hat was wearing these little badges, right? And we were like, oh, that's cute. It has my picture on it and like a Black Hat logo. That's not hard to duplicate. But sure, we'll wear it because you told us to. But the class figured that out really quickly too. There's some really basic things to put on here. So they were like, we'll make our own. And so 2 guys came strutting into the NOC, now showing their badge to the more alert security guard. And they didn't know where the trophy was. They'd done no recon, so they just got in, and then they were standing in the middle of the NOC like, hey,
They were.
have you seen a clipboard? Whatever. And we're like, who the hell are you? And we were looking for the clipboard. And we're like, all right, let me see your badge. And one of the guys picks up his badge, and they had only put the picture on one side. So then Fink was like, boop, boop, nice try again, and off they went. But yeah, so that's what repeatedly happened for the next 24 hours. 32 students kept trying to get into the NOC. The security guards at the NOC were losing their freaking minds. They were just like I walked in one morning and I'm walking in, I've got the event management, magnet one on, I've got this on. The guy has seen me for the last 4 days. He says, "Hi, grifter."
Where's your
and then
badge?
he grabs my badge and hits it with a UV light because there's a little watermark on here that glows under a black light. And so then he was like, "Okay."
Lesson learned, right?
But I mean, it was cool because apparently we had poor security and it got better. So yay! Free
It
pen
worked
test.
out.
It worked
Yeah,
out in the long
Snow actually sent us a pen test report, and then she said, "You'll get my bill later." She was like, 32 people times this much an hour, but I was like, whoa! Anyway, let's talk about some stats.
DNS. I'm gonna get into the fun stuff now. So DNS has grown every year, quite a bit more last year than the year prior. But again, last year was the first year that we had the 2 10-gig circuits, so 10x bandwidth. There was definitely more bandwidth, more DNS. So 2017, 21 million requests, up to almost 40 million by the end of last year, and then we just pulled those stats in about 49 million. And the interesting thing, and we put the graph up here, and we always talk about it, but look at the training days. You can see exactly when lunch is. And then all those spikes are usually the fun stuff getting downloaded right after lunch. But look at the different peaks versus briefings. So we have less people here for trainings, but they're almost forced to use the network at that point, obviously, to do labs and stuff. But then all you other guys get here and you're like, there's no way in hell. So always interesting to look at that. There's DNS for the year. So nearly 50 million DNS requests.
Yeah, those lower bumps are the not a chance. So
Nope.
So we always look at encrypted versus unencrypted traffic, or the type of encrypted traffic that we're seeing. You can see there, I guess I will say, I don't have the pie charts like we did last year or whatever, but I did look at these numbers and some other stuff to try to infer essentially what the amount of encrypted traffic was. Last year, we saw it was roughly 70%. It looks like the same this year. So for several years before that, it was about 5% more encrypted traffic year over year. But it looks like we're about in the same spot we were last year, if not a hair better. But yeah, we're looking.
One of the more interesting things about encrypted and unencrypted traffic is that we compare it not necessarily year to year, but show to show. So region to region is very intriguing to us. Asia is it's always the highest amount of encrypted traffic in the 90 percentile, basically, of traffic that's encrypted, I think. 90th, somewhere in there, 90%.
Yeah, 90 plus.
And then what's Europe again?
Europe ends up being about the same as the US.
So it's interesting just how that goes. And we always talk about it, obviously, and protect yourself. We're security practitioners, but it's definitely intriguing to see how this changes year to year and even region to region.
Yeah, I did talk to a couple local guys at the Asia show this year to say like, hey, we noticed you guys encrypt almost all of your traffic. Like why is that? Is there just better education here or whatever? And he was like, no, we just inherently don't trust our government. I was like, why are we trusting our government? Only 70%. Like 30% of us trust our government. But yeah, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So you can see a lot of TLS 1.2, and then there's like a little smattering in there, 1.1, 1.0, and then some SSL 3. I'm just hoping those are labs. I'm hoping they're labs.
Ish.
So these are our stats around malware. You can see that we flag a lot of things, right? If we see something interesting or it gets a high risk score from RSA NetWitness, we'll feed it into Cisco's threat grid. They detonate it in their sandbox. We see how it functions. Or if there are just file types that we're interested in, like is there things embedded in PDFs, that kind of thing, or just executables, DLLs, that kind of stuff, we'll just pump it into threat grid and see what it does. So you can see that there were a total of nearly 85,000 events, so something that made us go, take a look. And then in total, just above 4,000 files processed. There's a lot of malware. I don't know if you guys know that, but there is. You guys keep tiny little zoos on your laptops and just fire them at different things. It's great. We'll get into a specific example of that here in a
You
minute.
got to watch the GIF first. That's the best part.
But
And then it doesn't happen.
good.
Just keep waiting. So basically the evolution of the NOC, we talk about it a little bit every year, and Grifter mentioned in the beginning today a little bit about how it's grown, obviously, from when he started with 1,500 people to near 20,000 now. It's obviously changed quite a bit from having to do the open source stuff and trying to build that reliability and things into that we didn't have before. The evolution has really come, I wouldn't say full circle because it's always going to be changing, but basically between our guys and our team and the partners, we've gotten through, and as we talked about a little bit with the trainings in wireless, the stability of that has really come a long way, and we can offer that and be confident that you guys as attendees will be stable and secure as well. So as we go through this, everything here obviously was very purposeful, and obviously had an intent of what we were trying to provide. Getting through the stability and security are obviously always changing. Things are always changing. Products are changing. Attacks are changing, et cetera. So that's always kind of evolving. Segmentation, obviously that's a big deal, and where that changes between classrooms, the type of classrooms we have as we kind of bleed some of the other events into each other throughout the days. That changes for us quite a bit. But honestly, I think one of the biggest things that we've really benefited from is threat hunting with RSA in the NOC, and basically them digging through all that data that we have, as opposed to just having it and saying, this is amazing data. We can actually find interesting stuff and find things to be concerned about.
And the segmentation piece was born of like years ago. At this point, it feels like many years ago at Caesars. Like mostly the network was flat, right? We didn't do a lot of segmentation until the training classes, the numbers of training classes started to grow. We had one class that was an offensive class, and they like looked over at the class that was like, human factors in managing security professionals or whatever. And they were like,
And you put them in rooms next to each other.
and they just like destroyed this class. And we're like, they're not your lab, guys, you can't do that. And they're like, well, we didn't leave the network. And we're like, segmentation. And then, we decided, okay, well, let's take a look at the traffic. What's happening? What can we find that's interesting on here? And that's when we decided to bring in the hunting piece. And the hunting portion is provided by RSA, by NetWitness. The sandboxing, again, or Cisco Threat Grid or Glovebox, to be able to interact with the malware that we see and see what it does and hopefully learn something from it. We decided endpoint would be nice to have on all the registration machines or any like publicly facing machine that was interacted with by you.
You people.
So we just wanted to see what was going on there. And then with all of those pieces in place, obviously, it's the hot thing, kids. If you were on the expo floor, automation, right? So speaking of automation.
So this is one of our bigger projects that took a few shows, and that's another thing to kind of reiterate. We certainly do work on some of the regional shows, trying to get things perfected to use here at the US show, obviously at scale. But basically, the automation, and we'll get into how this works in just a second. One of the big things that we did, and we actually took a survey offhand last year asking if you guys wanted to see and be notified if we saw clear text passwords, crypto mining, or C2 from your machines. So basically that was implemented. Hopefully you didn't have to see one of those pop-ups. Basically it's a captive portal that's provided by Palo Alto once you're added into a user group. But basically that's one of the biggest issues that brought, that brought that forward was we can walk into a training room, and again, we know where you are at that point. We can walk in and find out who it is when he swings around when we open the door. But during briefings, when everybody's just on wireless, we have a general idea, obviously based off of access points. We wanted to be able to provide this information to you guys without having to tap your shoulder in the hallway. So yeah, hopefully you didn't see it, but if you did, hopefully it's also helpful.
So you can see the screenshots here are from Europe 2018. That's the first place we actually rolled it out. So we rolled out the notifications. To Bart's point, it's better for you to get that on your phone than for us to like step into like the Black Hat store and be like, MAC address, whatever, are you here? And then be like, you have crypto mining. But But yeah, we're just trying to inform you, and hopefully, and I mean, I think it's worked. We've had people respond. We get emails back. They say like, "What did you see?" We've had people come back to the NOC. We show them the traffic that we saw that was malicious.
Told people their passwords when they don't believe us.
Yeah, clear text account credentials. That's always fun because they're like, "No, I'm not doing that," and we're like, "Here is your password." They're like, "I am doing that." So this is nice because as we see things, we can just roll it out. The person is immediately informed that there's something amiss and they can take some kind of action. So the way that it works is when we see something, we're identifying it through NetWitness, so through the full packet capture, and then we work with Palo Alto to help like enrich that data, give us more context around it, what's actually happening there. If it does in fact look like it's bad, it goes to the orchestration or automation piece. At that point, we have a check in there where Bart and myself get an email that says, "We've detected this on this device. Would you like to send them an email letting them know, or a captive portal pop-up or whatever, a message letting them know?" And we say yes or no. That's just there because, one, it's new, and we don't want it to be something where it's just like, "Oh, this piece decided," and it's in its automation to flag everybody at the conference and send them an email saying that they have malware, and then we're lynched in the NOC. So
Lock the doors.
Lock the doors, Alan! So we talked about that a little bit, what's going on there. We're taking something from NetWitness, we're passing it to Palo Alto, they're enriching the data. It gets passed to the back end for automation is Demisto. And so it gets passed to the Demisto piece, and then that goes out. So you can see this is essentially how data flows around the NOC for one of those incidents. There is an immense amount of collaboration between all the partners. It's been really cool to watch over the years that as they've sat next to each other, they like lean over and they're like, "Is that what we send you? That's what our data looks like when you talk to us? That's terrible. We'll fix that," and then they go back and actually, normally by the next show, we have something cleaner, right? They're actually working together to make things better, which is really, really nice to see.
It's been amazing, and
It's more than super good.
Oh,
so we're gonna give you a couple of stories now, so it's story time. We're only gonna do a few, and then we're gonna roll into questions, and you can either get the hell out of here and go to DEF CON or something, or you can stick around while we ramble some more. So I just called this slide security or something like it.
We call everybody else out, so we just kind of wanted to.
Yeah, we call everybody out whenever it does. We put funny things up on a slide and all that kind of stuff. So I guess it's our turn. So we hired a private security company, right, to help take care of security or try to increase it around.
That's why he was willing to lay you out this year to that old story. They paid. So
yeah, it's but there were guys with like earpieces walking around. It was adorable. And so like the main dude sent out the entire security plan for Black Hat with pictures of what the badges looked like and the staff shirts and what you would do if this and this happened and all that stuff, all in the clear.
Which is totally okay if he sends it to his people, but he did it on the Black Hat network.
Yeah, he did it on the Wi-Fi in the clear. We're like,
uh-oh.
Dude, what are you doing? What are you doing, dude? What I thought was funny is in that plan, you will find this quote: "They hack anything and everything, not maliciously, but for the fun of it." So that's hackers.
It was great.
Yeah, we like that though. We're like, you guys.
This is, we talked about it, and again, a big piece of this had to do with the bandwidth, people starting to bang on things, but in particular this year we had a training room that all of a sudden we saw them doing some recon on a law enforcement website.
And then trying to exploit it. And I was like, the cops? That's what you thought you should do with your new skill set? You were like, where where could I try this? Not the lab environment created in this class, not any other lab environment in this giant conference of awesomeness, the cops. And I'm like, I'm looking
And then
through
trying to exploit it, SQL
Oh my
injection,
gosh, it was
non-encoded,
so
cat
loud. It was
password,
so
the whole
loud. They
bit.
were very bad at it. They were so bad. I was like,
Be glad you learned here. You're
No
never doing
way.
that again.
oh, it was bad. So yeah. So again, we know where you are. We went into the class. We let the instructor know. The instructors happened to that class. They provided laptops, and they knew where every machine
Where the MAC
was.
address
They
was.
were like, "Oh, that's that guy. He's 3 rows back, 2 seats over. He's sitting next to his boss." I was like, "All right, well, be cool, but tell him to stop, right?" And again, sometimes we just have to. We will literally open the door, lean in, and be like, "Stop, guys! It's still illegal from Black Hat." And it's like, and then it stops, right? So, yeah, we had a number of those. There were quite a few this year. So, I mean, I've got a new great.
batch.
I'm glad everybody's learning. Just try to rein in the excitement.
So, an interesting thing about airlines is that you need not very much information to go change a flight.
There it is. No, yeah, it's
There's enough
redacted.
information in that email to log into Southwest and change this person's flight.
Oh, I didn't. I used the one that didn't have it completely read. Look, I left.
You
information
used the
up.
wrong picture.
That's on me,
She's
whoever
really
you
staying.
are. If they figure out who you are, that's my bad. Guys, let her fly home. Okay. But yeah, all of the information, because we're like, is this like what potential is there for this? And yeah, we could change their flight.
It's just a confirmation, but again, these are the things that are just subconsciously. Let's remember that everything's pretty important at this point. So if you want to stay in Vegas, then you can do that. But
Yeah, you're coming to DEF CON.
oh man,
Yeah, so this one, again, another thing that we see a lot of, we're just looking at traffic and we see a lot of clear text stuff come through. One of the things that is a recurring theme show after show after show is people who think that they're doing the right things, or in some cases they've done the right things. Stop taking a picture of it.
unless you're going to pay his damn mortgage off.
It's like,
That's the
yeah, you're
only
gonna
thing
pay
you
his
can-
mortgage off, knock it off.
Come on.
So, yeah, he doesn't owe that much, I know.
So let's
I was
Venmo
like,
since we had to put it
yeah,
up here
all right,
for him.
We're gonna
Everybody just
start a
pitch in for the
GoFundMe
guy.
for this dude's mortgage for letting us put it on a slide. He didn't quite
The
let
scary
us,
part,
we did
though,
it,
if-
but whatever.
Grifter finished his story.
I'm-
The scary part is he thought he was okay.
Yeah, so he thought that everything was fine. We went to the class, where it's like, dude, this, like, you are sending a lot of financial information in the clear. No, I'm not. I'm using a VPN. No, you're not. No, I am. I'm connected right now. And I'm like, well, your mortgage, you owe this much. You live at this address, and your password is this. Oh, I'm not. And so it was like, holy crap. But the client did show that he was connected to VPN. So something's not right there, right? So he believes he's secure, and in fact, he wasn't. And he was like, yeah, my kid's in university. I was uploading a bunch of documents for student loans and whatever, and I thought that I was good. I was like, one, don't do that at Black Hat.
I just got
Two, really, really trust your VPN, right? I mean, like,
I just got a business idea for a new VPN site.
we see things like people will set up their, their client or whatever, and they don't use the kill switch option. So they come into a network like Black Hat, they're on, everything's fine. They've been connected for a while. They drop off. They don't realize that they've disconnected, and they continue to function as normal. And so if there's any traffic they would consider sensitive, they think it's encrypted. In fact, it's not. So make sure that you're using your kill switch options. We also see things like people using split tunneling, and they think it's happening here, but it's actually, whoops, all that data is going out on the other side. There's a lot of things that happen with VPNs where people think they're secure and they're not. So please, please, please
Trust but verify.
trust but verify.
Oh man, we're getting really close.
Yeah. So yeah.
This one's, so we've talked about interesting business models when everything kind of changed from ransomware to cryptoware. Well, this is kind of the next evolution. So this is actually a porn site. That's how you know we're getting close to the end. This is actually a porn site.
That's not a new business model.
Oh, fair. I see what you did there. So there's no ads on this porn site, which is only an amazing thing. And they're actually seemed like they were all pretty long videos.
Long, over 90
Somebody
minutes.
told us, I don't know what.
Yeah.
But in the background, they
one person in the NOC who has seen things that can't be unseen.
There's a part of the NOC that doesn't have windows.
I check all the videos, not a single ad.
It's market research. So basically in the background, they, and this was, they just load JavaScript and crypto mine the entire time that you're watching porn. So you don't get ads and they just get their crypto mining done while you do your business.
That's fairly dope. I'll take that trade.
It was interesting though, because we kind of thought about how, that is an interesting business model though, because you've got a lot of fluctuation, I think.
Yeah. You're like, well, I know they'll be back every 6 hours for 8 minutes. Big data, people, right? I'm just saying.
So
Yeah.
Speaking of porn.
Yeah.
These are just the sessions, so we didn't get too crazy this year. No math calculations. You guys are just weird, and we wanted to show that still. And
You paid a lot of money to be here, you nasty.
somebody does.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, wow. Wow. But yeah, so if you don't know some of those sites, now you do. You're like, wait, what? People seem to like that one. But yeah, so
You're weird.
we always talk about the adult content that goes on here, where no matter how many shows we go through and we see all these connections to it, we're like always surprised. Like the only thing that surprises us that we're just like, really, that much, really, for that long? Man, they are mining some Monero. So that's it. Now it's time for questions.
And you guys got to have some. There's questions. We had tons of questions in the smaller ones, so you guys have got some time. Somebody's got some. Everybody always runs. You're scared. We just don't want to call them out.
All right.
Somebody. So how do we inject the captive portals with encryption and stuff? So you absolutely have to hit an unencrypted site. You won't see it if everything you hit was encrypted at that point. But it's just all done through dynamic user groups at that point on Palo and added to it. So anytime they hit an unencrypted site at that point, we'll get captive portal. Yes, Andy, right?
Just a quick question about the porn.
My dog.
Which Black Hat show has the highest use of porn?
I mean, this one.
This one.
20,000 weirdos.
Oh
just having
yeah.
fun.
I mean, like per capita. I don't. Now I need to know.
So, we can start some new calculations
Yeah.
now.
Again. Is it one guy?
You tell us.
It's one super sweaty dude. You saw him. He looked dehydrated as all hell.
Do you have a question, or are you saying it was you?
This is going off the rails.
Hang on. There's somebody at the mic. Go ahead.
Have you guys seen any uptake in encrypted DNS technology?
I couldn't understand.
Can I say that one more time?
Yeah.
Did you see any uptake in encrypted DNS technology? Like
Yeah, that's usually when they're running away with your data. I don't think we actually see tons of encrypted DNS yet. No, not here.
Sorry.
Oh, we didn't this year.
Yeah, we didn't deploy any honeypots this year. No, we didn't.
We did not. We've done it in the past, but it was like WordPress on a.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I forgot. You just said it, and I was like, "Oh shit!" Yeah.
Nobody touched it.
Yeah,
but
nobody
if I
touched it
saw a
last
WordPress
year.
site at Black Hat, I wouldn't touch it either. It's probably. Go ahead.
I forgot.
Yeah, you talked about segmentation. I'm curious what you do, how far you take it to protect the labs against each other.
So we had an interesting question about this earlier, and to the extent that, again, it's just simple basic VLANing as far as that goes, host isolation on the wireless. Basically, again, we control all of the distribution layer as well. We do VLAN people, so in the classrooms, there's no host isolation on their SSID. They can talk to each other and then still have wired infrastructure as well and be within that same. But then everything else outside of trainings, there is nobody that will talk to anybody else as far as we go there. But everything's basic. There's nothing super advanced as far as that goes, like features with anything outside of VLANing at this point. Go ahead.
For configuration, how do you configure all the network equipment? Do you do it manually?
For configuration, is that what you said?
Yeah.
How do we configure it?
I mean, like the audio is really bad. It's super echoey in here. So
How do we configure the equipment, right?
Right.
While we're on site, basically. So myself and a small skeleton crew, Fink, and a bunch of the partners show up last Tuesday, basically. And there was even more. Some of the Switch guys were here on last Monday getting that put in. Basically, we work starting in about February designing this together with all the partners. Configuration is done in some sense beforehand, but a lot of it's done here because everything changes anyways.
But, okay, follow-up question. So
One question at a time.
Okay, so
yeah, you get one question. Sit down. Get out of here.
Go ahead.
you're
Go
fine.
ahead.
You're fine.
He's going to walk away. He's scared. Go ahead.
no, what I mean, do you log into every equipment and push the configuration there, or do you do it from one machine?
No, we're pushed. We don't manage. There's some management for Palo Alto. There's no central management for the switches.
Thanks.
So you said you swap out all the infrastructure here.
Mm-hmm. No, just the convention center where we are, we take over what we need. And as far as that goes, their equipment's still there, obviously. We just patch out and deal with what we have to. This side of the room isn't asking questions. Hang on, anybody?
Yeah, we don't unrack their stuff.
All right, go
That would be
ahead.
ridiculous. I'm not very strong.
Go ahead. Yell a little bit louder. What's that? Successful attacks? Were you trying something?
Yeah. Do you need to like disclose something right now, or?
No, there's nothing that I can say as far as this. It's kind of hard to say what a successful attack. I mean, there was plenty of labs that were popping boxes, training classes, but on our infrastructure and such, no.
Yeah, I think
I wouldn't
the thing
tell
that-
you
the
here
thing that
anyways. I'd have been crying in my room already if that was the case.
Yeah, the thing that annoys us, really what I would consider successful to a degree is just like when people are dropping like, hardware deauthors and planters and stuff like that.
There's always random stuff.
Yeah,
We
it's like,
actually had
oh crap,
people-
we have to go take a look at that.
We had some deauth issues this year as well, but nothing too crazy.
We actually had one that it wasn't intentional. Like the guy's internal wireless wasn't working in his laptop, and so the instructors gave him some janky ass like $15 adapter. That he
Chinese
plugged in.
adapter?
Yeah, and it was just like,
It broke it.
and like it was like we had to send somebody to go, like they were literally hunting him, like pointing antennas in rooms. Like someone was like, a dude came in our room and like pointed a directional antenna around and then left, and we're like, yeah, it's all right. It's just Jim. He's
Go ahead. So as far as the data, when we're done, everything gets wiped here, and RSA is actually already pulling, if I'm correct, and that data is completely wiped. There is nothing that is kept from the show. So everything is logged to disk during the show, but as soon as every show ends, we wipe all that data. It's our data too, so we've talked about that a little bit before, and we don't want that done for research, but we'll laugh at you while we're here.
Yeah, we like legitimately, like people will be like, oh, we'll give you money if you'll let us see that data. That's a gold mine of data. And we're like, suck it. Like,
If you want a new porn site, maybe, go ahead.
yeah, we'll give you one guy's data. Sweaty guy!
You said you did manual approval on the captive portal. What was the false positive rate?
So I wouldn't even say that there's a huge false positive rate that we were measuring. It was more of a, not even privacy. Again, we don't want to scare you guys away. So we didn't want those blasting out if it could have been a false positive. So for example, if all of a sudden a list of 5,000 users or something got added to that list and it just automated all the way through, we wouldn't be able to say, whoa, that looks a little weird. So we get an email, like a digest of that, and can just basically respond. It's just that stop in the chain, basically, to make sure that everything's good. But I wouldn't say that we had any, I don't know of any false positives as far as that went. Nobody came complain to us, at least.
So again, it's informational. Like, we're not stopping anything or doing whatever. We're just like, hey, here's a notification. I had one at the London show where a guy sent me back an email, or he sent it to knock@blackhat.com, which goes to, I think, Bart Fink and I, right? And so if you're looking for a date, knock at Blackhat. Talking to you, sir. That just goes out, and I had somebody come back and say, oh, I don't think that this is actually what's happening. And I was like, well, hold on, and I'll grab a screenshot of the traffic and whatever. And I sent it back to him. I said, here's your traffic. And he was like, oh yeah, that's actually, I think that's something that I'm doing with I'm like, all right, well, fine. So it looked false positive. It was something he intended to be taking place on his machine. But we haven't had people come into the NOC like banging on the glass, like, you're wrong, NOC. I don't have a crypto miner on there. Like,
And if you were legitimately crypto mining, that's fine. Again, it's just informational. We just wanted to make people more aware, because that's obviously the new wave of infection, if you will. So
Dogecoin's not going to mine itself.
The question's more, when did you guys hit no and not let it get sent to someone?
I haven't yet.
No, never. I always hit yes, and here's why. Again, that check is really only in there so that if I get an email at like 1 hour where all of a sudden there are 4,000 entries, that I'm like, no, right?
And then we'll just look deeper.
It's just a check for us to say, like,
Nothing
not malfunctioning, essentially. We're still nervous. It's only been a year. You hit no? Fink hit no because one of them was him. That's what he says. You just said it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that? Oh, he didn't actually hit someone. I was just joking. He was like, why did Alan hit the guy? I didn't actually hit somebody. No, they were just ready for a fight at any given moment. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, those poor guys, they earned their money this week. They earned the hell out of it.
Anybody else?
Oh. Say again?
Rogue APs?
So again, we have Ruckus, so they're monitoring for things like that. We also have Crazy Jim. So if we see something and we need to investigate, then we'll just go out and take care of it.
We have seen plenty of those in the past, for sure. There wasn't many this year.
Anything?
We haven't got into, as far as triangulation kind of
So you're
stuff.
saying, obviously, the question is, do we use Wi-Fi for positioning, or we don't do that. Kind of. We didn't. But if you guys are familiar with the Wi-Fi cactus, you've seen the Wi-Fi cactus for the last couple of years sitting in the NOC. Actually, if you poked your head into the NOC this year, the Wi-Fi cactus wasn't there, but the Wi-Fi Kraken was, which is a new project by Mike Spicer, or Dark Matter, who did the Wi-Fi cactus. He collected data from the last 3 years of black hats wandering around passively, scanning, and the last 3 DEF CONs, and he'll be speaking at DEF CON about all the analytics that he's done, including positioning. He's on the main stage at DEF CON, I want to say Saturday. So if you're interested in seeing when, he says Friday. Friday? What time?
4.
At 4 o'clock. So not
Is that a 4 or a 5? Your thumb
that creep.
broken, is it a?
What are those? No, I don't know. Is it baseball? I can't sports. I have no idea what's happening right now.
Anybody else?
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
It's been an amazing year.